We have a wounded person.
He hit on the spring.
Why don't they cover the springs?
They do.
There's some loose springs sometimes. Like I jumped on one and it cut my foot.
Yeah, he landed on his head.
He hit a spring.
Let's go. I'm gonna go call Keith. I don't think he's that hurt. He just. Yeah.
Is his mom here?
I have band-aids and stuff actually.
Okay, that's smart. We should get more napkins though.
Make sure to wash your hands, because that's Jonah's blood.
So I left off by talking about how my friends calmed me down while I was panicking in fear. My friends also figured out that while I was doing a backflip, they think I might have landed my head on a spring. And I think my friends were right, because when I landed, I did feel something sharp cutting my head. And I think that's the reason how I gashed my head open. But the question is, why would the Get Air company leave out a sharp spring under the ground of the foam pit? I mean, does the Get Air company not realize that someone could easily get injured from this? Or maybe they do realize, but they just don't care. And that's why we could probably sue them for this. Anyways, let's start this video. Alright, well, moving on to the story. As I was sitting in pain, I saw in the distance, close to the entrance of Get Air, a bunch of male nurses rolling an overbed towards me. I suddenly felt a lot more scared. I knew that I was very badly hurt, but I didn't expect that it was at the point that I would have to go to the hospital. The male nurses started asking me a couple questions about myself. Then they wrapped my head up with a cast and they slowly lifted me up onto the overbed and strapped me in. As they rolled me out through the exit, I waved goodbye to all my friends. When they got me outside, the male nurses carefully pulled me backwards into a huge ambulance. The ambulance was gonna drive me all the way to the Huntington Beach Hospital. When I got inside the ambulance, one of the male nurses told me immediately to call my mom. When my mom picked up the phone, she casually said,
Hey Jonah, how's it going? Are you having fun at Get Air?
My mom had no clue about what happened to me. I responded with an, I gave my phone to one of the male nurses, and he told my mom everything that happened to me. As I heard my mom's voice through my phone, I could just tell my mom was very worried about me. The male nurse gave me my phone back and said that my mom will meet me at the hospital. So the ambulance slowly left Get Air and set off on the 30-minute ride to the hospital. I just relaxed for a bit. I think I almost fell asleep. Then I started talking to one of the male nurses. We chatted for a little while until we got to the hospital. The ambulance doors quickly shot open, and the male nurses dragged me with the overbed through the entrance doors of the hospital. As they rolled me inside, I remember seeing all of these sick and injured people. They were all coughing. Some people were even screaming in pain. I then realized that all these people were in a lot worse conditions than me. I started to feel a lot better just knowing that what I was dealing with was not nearly as bad as I thought, compared to what other people are having to deal with in life right now. So the male nurses slowly lifted me out of the overbed and gently placed me down on the hospital bed. The male nurses said to stay put until my mom came. So I took my phone out and started watching some YouTube videos. I got a couple messages from my friends asking me if I was okay. I responded saying I was totally fine, which I think was a lie. I then overheard from a distance 2 male nurses talking about me. I turned my phone off to listen more carefully, and then I heard one of them say that the gash in my head is very deep. We're gonna have to use staples. My hands started shaking in fear. I tried to calm down a bit. I took some deep breaths until I heard another voice from the distance. And I knew exactly who it was when I heard it. It was my mom. She came over to me and gave me a big hug. Me and my mom started watching some Netflix together until one of the nurses came in. The nurse explained to me that I was going to have to get staples to cover my gash in my head. But she said it won't hurt because they're going to inject some numbing medicine into my head so I won't feel a thing. She did say to get the numbing medicine inside of me that it will hurt, but only for 10 seconds. But she said it won't hurt nearly as bad as getting staples in my head without the numbing medicine. The nurse left the room and then came back with a huge sharp needle. My heart started beating rapidly as I closed my eyes and looked the other way. As my mom said, "You're gonna be okay, honey." I knew that I was just gonna have to get this over with. The nurse said it's only gonna be 10 seconds and then it's over. I took a couple deep breaths and then I grabbed onto my mom's hand super tight. The nurse took the needle and started stabbing it into my head. It was so painful. I remember laying in the bed, moaning in pain, while squeezing my mom's hand extremely hard. The nurse just kept poking the needle into my head over and over and over again. I just kept hearing her say, "It's almost done, it's almost done." This was probably the most intense, painful 10 seconds of my life I've ever felt. This was like 100 times more painful than when I actually gashed my head open while doing that backflip. When the nurse finished with the numbing, she put her equipment away and said that I'm done with the worst part. I felt relieved that I got it done with. 10 minutes later, another nurse came in with a tray of staples and tools. The nurse said that this wasn't gonna hurt at all, and she was totally right. When the nurse put all 6 staples into my head, one by one, I really could not feel a thing. I could barely even feel my head at the time. After the nurse was done with all the staples, I was all cured and ready to leave the hospital. I got in my mom's car, and my mom drove me home. The nurse said that I had to leave the staples in my head for about 2 weeks, and then they would take it out. It was a bit hard having the staples in my head. I couldn't go in the water, and I had to watch my friends have a fun time in the bay without me. But I managed to conquer through it. About 2 weeks after the incident, I never got a call back from the hospital to take the staples out of my head. And my mom then got an offer from my friend Scott's dad. He's a doctor, and he deals with this stuff all the time. And he offered to take the staples out of my head. So I met with Scott's dad at the farmer's market, and he took all the staples out of my head. It hurt a little bit, but not nearly as bad as the numbing medicine.
Breathe, deep breath, don't hold your breath. Okay, breathe in, 4, 1 more.
It's done. It's done? Yeah.
You just need to collect the...
How does it feel? It hurts a little bit. Yeah, right? It stings a little bit. Yeah, but that's it. That's it? Yeah.
Alright, you good?
I see a little blood.
I'm really glad that I made this video so that I will never forget the story about this incident. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm planning on making a lot more videos like this in the future, so stay tuned and please subscribe.